If you have a disability or a child with a disability, you have probably wondered at some point, what did I do to deserve this? Is God punishing me? Why has God abandoned me? Why does God hate me even? I know I've struggled with those questions at times as a parent with a child with a disability. If you've ever thought these or something like them, I have an account from the Bible you need to hear. It is the Gospel of John, chapter 9, verses 1 through 12. As he, Jesus, passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he would be born blind? As they pass and see this man blind from birth, Jesus' disciples ask him a question that is based on a common assumption about the relationship between suffering and sin. That people suffer hardship, illness, poverty, disability as a consequence for sinning against God. So their assumption is that either this man or his parents sinned in some way to deserve blindness as a punishment. Jesus' answer is unexpected. John 9, verse 3. Jesus answered, Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this was so that the works of God might be manifested in him. We must work the works of him who sent me, as long as it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Jesus corrects their assumption with an answer that kind of breaks their categories. He reveals why the man is blind. We don't often get an answer to the question, why do we? He also explains why he is going to do what he's about to do. And he connects the reason to who he is. I am the light of the world. Jesus' words here are the key to this whole story, and we'll come back to them in a minute. But verses 6 and 7 describe what happened next. When he had said this, he spat on the ground, made clay of the saliva, and rubbed the clay on his eyes, and said to him, Go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which is translated sent. So he went away and washed, and came back seeing. The man believes Jesus. He takes him at his word, and he washes in the pool of Siloam, and is healed. He doesn't regain his sight. He is seeing everything for the first time. Jesus has healed him. And a bit of chaos follows. Verse 8. Therefore the neighbors and those who previously saw him as a beggar were saying, Is this not the one who used to sit and beg? Others were saying, This is he. Still others were saying, No, but he is like him. He kept saying, I am the one. So they were saying to him, How then were your eyes opened? He answered, The man who was called Jesus made clay and rubbed my eyes and said to me, Go to Siloam and wash. So when I went away and washed, I received sight. And they said to him, Where is he? And he said, I do not know. After clearing up the identity confusion, the man testifies and gives a faithful account of what the man who is called Jesus had done for him. Now I want to return to Jesus' words in verses 3 through 5 and show you some implications for you and your child with disability, whether it's blindness, Down syndrome, CP, autism, any disorder or deformity. There are 4 implications for you and your child with disability. Number 1, your child's disability is not a punishment. In one sense, yes, disability, illness, pain, conflict, and death are all the result of living in a world that is under the curse of sin. All suffering can be traced back to the first man and first woman's disobedience to God. But this does not explain why one person suffers this and another person suffers that, or why one person suffers more and one suffers less. We often reason it out like the disciples in a one-to-one correlation. I did this bad thing, and now God is punishing me by giving me a child with a disability. It is what leads to the questions, what did I do to deserve this? According to Jesus, assuming, guessing at a one-to-one correspondence is not the answer. God is at work in ways that can't be reduced to that kind of logic. Also, number 2, your child's disability is not an accident. It is not an accident. Jesus did not respond to the disciples' question with, What do you mean? Why would you think God did this? God is loving and doesn't cause disability or suffering in people's lives. Once he reveals that the man's blindness is not a punishment for sin, he says, But this was so that. In other words, for this reason, for this purpose. As strange as it may sound at first, as hard as it may be to accept, your child's disability is by design, God's design. And your child, with his or her designed disability, has been given to you for a purpose. Thirdly, your child's disability displays God's work and purpose. But this was so that the works of God might be manifested in him. There's the purpose. So that God's works would be manifested, made known, put on display. Through your child's disability, God intends to put his glory, his goodness, his mercy, his power on display. I don't know that this means that God intends to do this by healing your child like Jesus does the blind man. In fact, Jesus' words here seem to indicate that this wouldn't be the norm. We must work the works of him who sent me as long as it is day. Night is coming. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Jesus healed frequently. Jesus reversed suffering often while he was here to demonstrate his glory and his authority and to give us a view of the kingdom that he will one day bring in all of its fullness. But that doesn't mean God is not making himself known through your child's disability. He has just as definite a purpose for you and your child as he did for the blind man in John chapter 9. And that purpose is to put his grace and glory on display, even if the way that he does it is different. What is crucial is to trust him, which brings me to the last implication. Number 4, your child's disability is an opportunity for you to trust Jesus. The blind man trusted Jesus. His obedience proved it. I encourage you to read the next part of this story in John chapter 9, verses 13 through 34 sometime, because the man ends up being interrogated by the Jewish leaders who hate Jesus, and he is eventually excommunicated from the synagogue, their center of worship, because of his faithful testimony. John chapter 9, verses 35 through 38 tell us that after the interrogations, all of the insults, and the shame of being kicked out, verse 35, Jesus heard that they had put him out, and after finding him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered and said, "Who is he, Lord, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have both seen him, and he is the one who is talking with you." And he said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshiped him. Will you trust Jesus and his purposes in your life, including whatever hardships you endure because of your child's disability?